Welcome back to the Thinklete Podcast. Today, we're joined by Kirsten Jones, a Hall of Fame Division I volleyball player, former 15-year Nike executive, peak performance coach, best-selling author of Raising Empowered Athletes, and host of the award-winning Raising Athletes podcast. Kirsten has spent years helping athletes, parents, and coaches build confidence, develop resilience, and perform at their best. Her superpower is helping people get out of their heads and into their bodies so that they can perform with confidence under pressure. She's also lived the youth sports journey herself by raising 3 athletes, including 2 Division I basketball players, so she understands the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Today, we're going to explore what it really takes to raise a confident ADHD athlete while being the best version of our parenting selves on the sidelines. Kirsten, welcome. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Aleka. Thank you, Derek. I'm thrilled to be here.
So, we were just kind of talking about this. I read your Empowering Athletes book, which is awesome, and so many great tips and useful things to take away as a parent of athletes, not just ADHD, but any athlete. And I'm a big believer in a lot of things you said. And one thing that caught my eye or my ear is the comparison that you said that parents should be a potter, not a promoter. And I want you to kind of explain what you mean by that. And also answer the question, do you think that most parents are kind of getting that wrong today? And, what are your thoughts about that?
Oof, yes. Let me back up to get to that. I grew up in Montana in the 70s and 80s playing whatever sport was in front of me. You played, we played whatever was the season for it. Our parents could have cared less if we played in college. My parents were like, get into the best school you can get into. My dad went to Penn Medical. My parents met on the Penn campus, Philly connection there, right? So cool. It was all about academics. And so I had this bug in me that I wanted to play in college. I don't even know where it came from because back in the day, we didn't even have club sports. But I went to, the Grizzly cage camp every summer or the Grizzly volleyball camp. And I saw those girls and thought, wow, what if I could be like that? I think a lot of people that are raising kids now had similar experiences of that. Yes, they're the outliers where there were parents that were super intense, the Andre Agassi's that I wrote about in the book, the Marinoviches that I wrote about. But most parents in those days particularly were go along to get along. And as I talk about, I think, in the 40s and 50s, about 25% of women worked outside of the home. By the 70s and 80s, that number had doubled. So all of a sudden we have both parents working, not all of a sudden, but over time we have both parents working outside of the home. In 1979, Adam Walsh gets abducted and the world shuts down saying it's a very scary place. We can't let our kids just run outside and play in the street anymore. Mom's not home, dad's not home. At the same time, 1981, a thing comes out saying that the American kids are not as smart, that No Child Left Behind and all these other countries are racing past us academically. And I don't think it was one thing. ESPN comes online in 1979, right? Now, all of a sudden, you can turn on the TV and you can see Tiger Woods, putting, and you can see Serena Williams, and you can see these 10,000 hour rule. Ooh, if I coach my kid for 10,000 hours, they could become the great athlete that I never was. And I think it became I like to see it as the frog in the pot, like very, very slowly over time. Then you had a lot of parents, particularly dads with very good will, who said, I played baseball. I can coach the baseball team. And so then the dads start getting involved, which again, very altruistically, I think it starts in a very good place. And then, dads start talking and they're like, well, hey, if we got Jimmy and Bobby, then we would get a better team. And, by the time we get to the 90s, when companies like Adidas and Nike come in and they start offering shoe deals, all of a sudden things start getting really ramped up. And by the 2000s, you have these parents that are feeling I am behind. And I like to say, when I was thinking about writing my book, when you get pregnant, everyone hands you what to expect when you're expecting. And you're like, sweet, I'm going to be the best parent ever. And you read it week by week and it's the size of a lima bean and you're like, yes. And you think, this is it. I've got all the answers.
Yeah.
And then you get to kick and chase and there's some, Yahoo standing next to you on the sidelines go, we're not doing this rec thing, are you? Like, we have a private coach.
Yeah.
And they're 5. And you're like, wait, I played and I worked with the best athletes, and yet I'm doing it wrong. Am I doing it wrong?
Yeah.
And I think parents need to know, no, you're not doing it wrong. No, this isn't normal. I started writing the book in 2018, 19. By the time it came out in 23, it was a $19 billion business. Today, it's over $43 billion. The NFL is a $20 billion business. It's twice the size of the NFL. So now parents feel this FOMO or this, we all,
FOMO. Yeah.
yeah, we all want to do our best. And so I don't blame the parents. It's not, and if you feel triggered by what's going on around you, that's normal, right? I think every parent is trying to do the best they can with what they have from where they are. And we all get caught up in the, well, if they have a private coach, then we should get a private coach, and we should drive an hour to the better coach, and we should make sure our kids doing travel at 10. And what does it end up doing is dysregulating all of us. So speaking about ADHD and feeling dysregulated, I think, and now with the invention of the cell phone since 2012 and 2010, when like that's completely exacerbated this whole issue where, you went to a basketball camp and your parents found out how it did at the end of the week. And now we have, we have to watch the game. We got to watch every minute and every bat. And like, right. You feel like a bad parent if I'm not watching. I have parents that call me and they're like, I'm really stressed. And I'm like, why? Well, I missed practice yesterday. I was like, are you practicing? Like they now feel like you're being judged as a parent. And I'm not making fun of that. I feel like it's true. You feel like, well, my kid's really mad at me because I didn't go to practice. Like, if you're playing for me, you're playing for the wrong reason, right? Like, as you know, it's an inside job and you got to love it. Sorry, I just went off, but
no, but like, you just kind of triggered my, like, and even with that being said, like, then there's that aspect of the parents are tying success and happiness to the results of their athlete, right? And then other parents are like comparing their athlete to other athletes through their results. And I think there's too much of that focus versus the development and the experience, right?
I like to say progress over perfection.
Yeah.
That's at the bottom of our growth tracker.
Exactly.
That's so funny that you said that.
Exactly.
Because everybody's, it's kind of like saying, well, honey, where are you going to go to college? I mean, we live in Los Angeles now, but I remember when my youngest was in kindergarten and they had to make a banner of where they wanted to go to college in kindergarten.
Wow.
I mean, like you don't know
even know how to spell college in kindergarten.
And what's college? And what kind of ice cream are we having today? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
so the focus.
We as a society have gotten so focused on the outcome. And to your point, Derek, it's like, yeah, but did you win? And if I had $1 for every parent who told me my kid's the U9 national champion, I'm like, that is not a thing.
Yep.
National, yeah.
That is not a thing. And if that's your, and again, I don't blame the parents, but that's what they've been told. Well, hey, if you're this at 9, then you're going to be this at 12, and then you're going to be this. But as you know, less than 5% now will play D1, D2, D3, NAIA. So if we're all holding out for, it's like telling you to walk around with an umbrella because there's a 3% chance of rain, and that's what we're doing. We're spending all of our resources mentally, emotionally, physically, and it's exhausted. And I see the parents are they're fried and they're looking for, how do I help my child who I just truly want them to have fun? And I do have a lot of parents that are like, I don't think my kid's going to play in college. I just want him to stay out of trouble in high school, right?
Yeah,
and I want him to make friends and learn how to be a leader and learn how to win and learn how to lose. And that's why I put empowered into my title, because if I got nothing else, if all 3 of my kids said no thank you, I just want them to know they're enough.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep. Yeah, I think it is more about the parent wanting to fulfill their childhood dream or something they did not accomplish themselves. I never made it to that level, so my child is going to do that, right? And they're going to live through that experience, which is not ideal. And I don't know if it's just the fact that we did play D1 and we know that there's plenty of time for the competitive pressure. Let them have fun when they're young, because gosh, when they hit middle school, even high school, that's when we're okay. It's going to be a little more competitive. And at that point, if they truly love it and they're internally motivated, we're going to let them and encourage them. But, for parents that, like, a question that I had for you related to this is, how do parents kind of balance pushing their kids to do what they want to do without pushing too much to the point where the kids are feeling like they're only doing it to please the parents? Like, where is that balance and that fine line? How do you know if your child is just doing it to please you or to really please themselves?
Such a good question. And if you have more than one child like you do and I do, you know that they don't come out the same way, that every single one of them is wired differently. And as much as you think you can do a control alt paste, it doesn't work that way. I like to say, for kids under the age of 13, we focus on the 3 F's: friends, fun, and fundamentals. Find a coach, find a club, find a program where they value that. And I think the barrier to entry, the bar, is at the end of the season, not did we win everything, but do they want to sign up again?
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to sign up again, you won.
Yes.
Right? The child won, because that meant they made some friends, they had some fun. Most of the time, particularly girls I know, like I've coached girls volleyball, U9, they care about the hair tie and whether the socks are matching or not, right?
Yeah.
And yet we have this idea, well, my daughter's really competitive and we have to be playing ECNL. And I'm like, you get the daughter on and she's like, I don't care about that. I just want to be with my friends, right?
Yeah.
So focusing on that, and parents avoid the 4th F. So focus on friends, fun, and fundamental. The 4th F is FOMO. Yeah, but they have a coach. Yeah, but they're doing that. Yeah, but we need to be, or we're going to get behind. And I've talked to, on my podcast over the last 8 years, I've talked to Division I pro coaches, Steve Kerr and Bobby Hurley and these guys. And they said, if your child is talented enough, we will find you.
Yeah.
Right. And so parents walk into a gym and they're like, my kid's got to be the best. So he's got to score the most points, or he's got to hit the most home runs. And I just spoke actually this past weekend to in front of a group of D1 coaches, and the coach coach for TCU came up to me afterwards. He's like, "Oh, I love what you said." He's like, "Where have you been?" He's like, "I'm dealing with these parents, and even at the college level, who are all on their phones texting, And I said, parents, it's not our journey is over. We should be supportive, to your point. So if you have a child who's really hungry, you'll know the bag's by the door. And with ADHD too, we're going to put the bag by the door the night before, ready to go. We're going to have a process in place. He's in the backyard asking to throw the ball or do extra reps. They're pulling. You can tell when somebody, whether it's chess or baseball or art, I like to ask my clients, so if somebody were to leave you alone for the weekend, you could do anything you want. What would you do all weekend? And it's really interesting to hear when the parent is like, they're a really good swimmer. But I talked to the daughter and she's like, I would just love to paint all weekend.
Yeah. No swimming.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you don't have to swim. We need to be healthy. We want to have a healthy body. What we know is by age 23, if we are physically active, we are more likely to be physically active as adults. Very important for mental health, physical health. But not everybody wants to be a competitive swimmer.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So understanding your child, and I like to say, parent the child you have, not the one you wish you had.
I remember I wrote that down because I loved that point. I think we all try to carve our, like you're saying, with them, be a potter, not a promoter. Like we should be molding them into something. Well, not really molding them, just allowing themselves to mold themselves into what they want to become, right? Let it happen on their own. And you're right. If they really want to do something, they're going to find a way to do it. And they're showing you signs that they really love it. And if they don't want to, and there's families that we work with, unfortunately, that where we talk about it and we're like, oh, is that child really, really wanting to do this? If they wake up in the morning, is that the first thing they think about? Do they want to go to practice? Do they want to go to the games? And if they're not excited about maybe practice, but at least the games, and there's something there that's lacking, and they're probably being pushed by something outside of their own control, which,
right? Don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean you should always be happy about it. It means they're always excited. No, like, this is a job too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get up and pay taxes either, but like, that's part of my job, right?
Yeah.
And so if they're into it though, they're going to be coachable. They're going to make great eye contact. They're going to ask questions. They're going to say to you later after the game, hey dad, what did you think? They want feedback because they're curious about it. And if you're never getting, those are the signs that, and they forget stuff, or they're injured. I have a lot of kids that, well, she keeps getting injured. She's begging you to say, this isn't for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think what you said, also, you mentioned if your child, it's a good sign to see if they're really kind of, and this ties back to the confidence piece, is if your child is playing and they constantly are looking over to you for approval, that's not a good sign, right? We see this a lot of time with last year when we were watching our son play baseball, they swing and they look over at the mom, right? And it's like, oh, what is the mom doing? What's her reaction? Am I upsetting her? Really, that rather than focusing on just having fun and doing what, getting better and improving, that is something that parents can keep an eye on. Is your parents even, or your child even looking at you, right? That's not.
And some parents will say, well, I don't say anything. I don't know why. It's not me. And yet then the wife will say, yeah, you sit there and roll your eyes the whole time. Yeah. And even an eye roll can be, because they're so hyper aware. All we want to do as a child is make our parents proud. And so in that situation, if you're not aware of the body language, go take a lap. Go go sit somewhere else, take some time away. Because you're doing a disservice. Because if the kid's like, yeah, but I want you to watch, great, I'll be watching. But I want you to enjoy your game. Your head shouldn't be on a swivel. You need to be paying attention to your coach and your teammates. And when we can teach them, and then they can relax. I think COVID, actually, one of the big silver linings of COVID was they weren't allowing parents in the gyms or into the practices.
That's true.
And the kids loved it. I don't know if you have it where you are, but my kids played soccer, and they have silent Saturday for soccer one day. And it's the one Saturday a year that the parents are not allowed to say anything. And when you ask the kids, what's your favorite soccer game of the year? They said, when my parents can't say anything.
Wow. Interesting. That's so interesting, because what we talk about a lot oftentimes too is like after the game, right? We talk about like that car ride home, right? And how often that becomes so, combative or argumentative, right? Because the parents are obviously trying to, say whatever they're going to say to the athlete, right? But the athlete takes it as criticism, or maybe isn't ready to talk at that time. And it's always so interesting when we actually have a conversation then with the athlete themselves, and how they say they wish that experience was so much different. And we're sitting here thinking to ourselves, well, you have some skin in this game. You can communicate that to your parents and say, hey, I'm not ready to speak yet. I will be at a certain time. And I get that you're trying to help me, but just not yet, not right now. Right. And so that's very empowering for the families, right, that are able to then actually do that. Right. And then how much more memorable and positive those experiences are for the child, for the athlete. When they look back. Yeah. And that example that sets from the parent side too, right? Like I can think back to experiences like when I was a kid, right? And nightmarish car rides that I had.
I think we all can.
But just how those experiences really impacted, like, how, like later in life, having certain like memories of that weren't positive, instead of thinking like how great this game was because of something like that on top. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, when I was researching the book, I met this woman. I was at the gym working out, and I guess somehow we got into talking about, she was, so I've got a tennis player and trying to help her navigate it. But she goes, honestly, I'm so afraid. And I said, why? And she said, well, I was a ranked tennis player in California. And she goes, I don't remember the competition. All I know was that I lost. And my dad was so upset that he pulled over on the PCH and he made me get out of the car and I had to walk 5 miles home.
Wow.
And she started crying.
Yeah.
And here she is at 45 years old. And it's like it just happened to her.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she said, my biggest fear is that I would do that to my own child because I know my dad wanted what was best for me. And so parents, if you happen to be somebody that's super into it and really wants your kid to do the best, I say we got to name it to tame it. We got to be aware of what we're doing and how we're showing up, because your child probably doesn't have the words, maybe if they're too young, but also the guts to say, back off, right? But if we can check ourselves and ask a spouse or ask a friend, hey, how am I showing up on the sidelines? And if you're rolling your eyes or yelling at the competition, yelling against the other team, I see that happening, cheering against them. Like, what are we modeling?
Yeah. And I think that, the modeling piece I was going to ask is so important because we don't, I don't know if you said they watch us so closely. I don't know if we realize that not just the kids are watching, but other parents are watching, the coaches are watching. And then also not just the modeling physically, but also verbally, what are we telling them, right? If they lose, what's the first thing that comes out of our mouth? If they don't,
what are we saying? We value.
If
winning.
they don't make, exactly. If they don't make a team, how are we affecting their outlook on that, right? Are we kind of pushing our opinion onto them, or are we just, saying the facts? Hey, you didn't make the team. And how do you feel about that? Kind of like, maybe they didn't care as much as you thought they did. Maybe they wanted to be on the B team, like your friend said, right? Maybe that's a better environment for them, right? Maybe they don't want the pressure. So I think that modeling piece is super important, not just to show them, but to also what's coming out of our mouth is really important. Are we trash talking a player on the team that is getting more playing time because they're not as good as you? But we shouldn't be saying this. Less playing time.
And what we're doing across the board as parenting, what's shifted from the way we were raised is we keep lowering the bar as far as adversity. We don't, I'm going to go talk to the teacher. I'm going to call the principal. I'm going to go call the coach. And honestly, kids are very capable of advocating for themselves when we let them. But we get triggered by our 5-year-old self or 8-year-old self. And I'm not going to let this happen to me the way it, happened to you, the way it happened to me. Let me take over. But you've actually just taken away the gift. I have a client right now. She's lovely. She wants to go play in college. She's super talented. And I get the mom on the phone and the mom is in tears because the last coach yelled at her. So I'm not going to let this coach yell at her. And I said to the daughter with the mom there, and I said, how do you feel about going and talking to your coach? Do you think you could do it? And she's like, I totally could do it. That honestly is the biggest gift you can give her, because pretty soon she's going to be away at college. She's got to need to talk to her college coach on her own. Then it's going to be a boss, right? It's not blaming the mom, but she said, you're right. Like me texting the coach and calling the coach and she needs, give her the words. And what I like to do, and parents, if you're in this, like even with an 8-year-old, let's role play. I'm the coach. You're you. Okay. So what do you want to say to me? Right. And I'm not getting playing time and you don't like me. Okay, great. We're not going to complain about playing time. What do you really want? Well, I want to get better so I can get out. Okay, great. So what specific feedback can this coach give you to help you get better? Oh, like you see their personalities shift when they get the agency to be like, oh, I did that. I talked to my teacher on my own. I talked to my coach on my own. It's a beautiful thing.
I do think that's really important. We always try to tell our son, it's something that I'm trying to do lately because he's turning 10 soon. He's at the age where he's very capable of speaking up for himself, but he's not used to that. He's a little timid, I would say, if I said, go up to ask the coach, how you can improve, ask your coach, what you can do to get more playing, if that's the instance. And I don't know if you would feel confident enough to do that yet, but that's something that we're constantly trying to encourage him to do. I'm not going to talk to the coach always for him. You're not. Well, if he's not coach, he is a coach on his team, but that's not what we want to encourage at all.
Well, no, and ultimately what we want to develop is a sense of independence and accountability.
Yeah.
Right. We want him to be able to develop those skill sets, and those are hard, right?
Yeah.
That takes a lot of work.
Well, and a stepping stone would be, let me go with you, okay. And hey, coach, we're working on this skill. Do you mind? And it's 8 or 10, they're fine, right? Like, of course, if they're 15, okay, let's, we're going to have to catch up a little bit, but with an 8 or 10-year-old, but just say, hey, we're practicing, and then let him speak, let him lead the conversation. And even, and then just, wow, let's go in prepared. What are the 3 questions you want to ask? You can ask this. Okay, great. Even if we get one of those answers, like, awesome job, right? Oh, I actually stood up for myself. Because P.S., my oldest is 25, and right now we're still working on, okay, now you got to go get your own credit card. Oh, how do I do that? Right? Can you come with me? No, parenting never ends. So we want them to have that. It's a muscle. And the more we use the muscle, just like being able to swing the bat, this is a muscle. And that's what is so exciting is they can really grow in this area.
Yeah,
for sure. We have a family, or I have a family that I work with actually in Washington State, and he's a 16-year-old, was going to the Gonzaga basketball camp this summer, and he had been there in a previous year and struggled through it for various reasons. But one of the things that we challenged him to do and help him through it, to help him kind of develop his script, was to be able to proactively go up to the coach and say, hey, here's who I am. Here are some of the things that I am working on. And if you see this, coach, it doesn't mean that I am doing X. It means maybe I just need a little bit more time to sort of like reset myself. And here's how I do it. And so he was able to kind of work through that process. And then, in turn, right, maybe change or maybe avoid a coach getting a negative perception of him because he was able to proactively communicate and have the courage to do so, right? The support from us and his parents, obviously, to do this as well, but in a more proactive way to then help that whole experience be a lot more enjoyable for him. So
100%. And by the way, you just stood out, because now standing out is looking somebody in the eye, shaking their hand. Hi, I'm Joe Smith. I am so excited to be at your camp. These are the things I'm working on. Oh, where's Joe? Right? Yeah. Like, they're going to be tracking you because you had the courage to come up and say, I would love feedback. Oh, he's coachable. Like, that's huge.
Yep. It's the little things too. Because obviously, as we know, right? Like, I can think back to when I was playing and, scouts, I was talking to scouts and, went through the draft process and all that. And, it's everybody physically is going to, be, like the good athletes, right? The top tier athletes, physically, they're going to be pretty calm, right? So it's those other things, those intangibles, we call them, right? The, firm handshakes, looking in the eyes, like you've said, follow-ups, right? Like following up, how are we doing things with response times and communication and things like that, right? Like all of those things then separate, right? And kind of are the ones then that scouts or college recruiters or programs or whatever, they want involved in their organization and their program because they're reliable, they're trustworthy, right? They made a very good first impression. The perception of them is positive, and they can do all these intangible things, which, in my opinion and through experience, have really kind of been the main differentiators, for sure.
100%. I had the Penn coach, men's basketball coach, the former coach Steve Donahue. I talked to him, and he was talking about recruiting a 5-star athlete, and he would go to a prep school at 6 a.m, watch the guy play. He was phenomenal. He goes, he's just off the chain, but he goes, I'm noticing he's not touching the lines. He's not high-fiving his teammates. He's not paying attention during the drill. He checks himself out of the game. He goes, but the guy next to him, not as tall, not as athletic, engaged, touching every line, walking up, picking up the water bottles. He said halfway through that workout, I stopped recruiting the 5-star and I started recruiting him.
Yep. Yep.
Yes, I love neon talent. It's great to have a guy that can touch 11 feet, but ultimately I need guys that I know who are going to be all in. And those things are 100% within our control. And I believe most parents want kids who they're going to show up that way in life, right? It's not about basketball. It's not about baseball. It's not about running. It's about, how I do one thing is how I do it.
Yeah. And I think that again ties back to how confident are they, right? To do that, to not care about, hey, I'm not the best on the court, but I'm still going to be doing everything, working just as hard, if not harder, right? So in regards to ADHD athletes who hear corrections all day long from teachers, coaches, and themselves, how would you recommend we go about helping them build the confidence when they feel like they're always being told what they're doing is wrong?
Start with be very specific. Pick 1 to 2 to 3. Don't give me 10 things. Don't talk to me for 10 minutes. Let's just break it down into small little chunks. And maybe today's, depending on their age and what the goal is, but today is, I want you to touch every line for this one drill. Or I want you to high five your teammate at the end of every time I blow the whistle. Something, I want to win. So give me a win. That's what we all want to know we're enough. Right. And every coach, nothing breaks my heart more than when these clubs have way too many kids on a roster so that they can get more money. And we coach the players 1 through 5, and players 6 through 20 are supposed to just be happy they're here. That's not coaching. That's collecting, that's babysitting and collecting money. I think if you're responsible for a team, you should make number 22, become number 20. Number 20 becomes number 15. Like, everybody wants coaching.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think everybody walks in there expecting playing time. I know a lot of parents are realistic about that, but they do want their kid to be developed. And if you have an ADHD kid, I think we all are ADHD. My oldest is now coaching at the high school level here in LA, and he says he was coaching some freshman basketball, and he blows the whistle and takes a kid out of the drill, and the kid walks over and gets on his phone. He's like, during practice, he goes, Mom, I would have never done that. But we're all so now, we can't focus. But find little things that we can age appropriate, not too much, and then catch them doing it well.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the athletes that I am currently working with, we had set small goals, asked him to set small goals for this next practice that he had that week. And the parent wrote back because he's a little bit younger, and they agreed on a goal of always listening and eye contact when the coach is talking. And I said, that's not as small and tangible of a goal as we want to go for, right? We want something like, hey, like what if we, high five our teammate for doing something well? Maybe 2 high fives a game. That's something that you can measure and easily say, you got those 2. That's a small win, but let's praise it well, rather than everything has to be perfect. And every time you do this, those are not the type of goals I feel like we should be putting on our kids or encouraging our kids to form, right? More of those small wins and small goals. So I love that.
Yeah, but I think to your point, Kirsten, it's also, unfortunately, there's coaches out there that don't know how to identify, look for, and then recognize, celebrate those small wins.
Yeah.
Right. So, maybe it could be various reasons, right? Not all the majority of coaches out there are volunteers in youth sports, right? So they don't have the resources or understanding of and that's fine. Like, they do a great job of just volunteering their time, but not all of them have the ability to have played a sport at a high level or coached at a high level to know what those small things to look for are, right? That an athlete is actually doing really well or is maybe even about to do really well, right? And then they don't have that ability to kind of like stop themselves and recognize the athlete for it in front of their team, their peers, to help them grow their confidence, right? Because ultimately then that leads probably to them having more fun and enjoying the whole experience too. So I think a lot of this, a lot of it unfortunately falls on the coach's shoulders, right? As well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a challenge and that's where I say, again, parents, be screening. And I get it. Like you usually, I like to give you more than one kid. What's within 10 minutes of the house, right? Is kind of where you start with a sport,
Yeah.
but finding a club and or a coach that understands that. And 70% of youth sports coaches have not gotten any training. So some of them played, but just because you played doesn't mean you understand how to teach, doesn't mean you understand how to then, work with parents, work with, it's a big responsibility. So I do feel like it's rough on the coaches too, because they're kind of just thrown into the deep end and said, okay, figure it out. That said, I think there are ways, and that could be from the parent side of helping your child chunk it. And by chunk it, I mean break it down into little bite size. We just want you to finish the season this year. We're gonna be excited if you're gonna make it on base 3 times this season, or we're gonna make it something very doable, right? And be the best cheerleader. Like when I work with teams, we talk about body language, eye contact. Like not everybody's going to get the same amount of playing time, but we all have control over how we show up. And I see that a lot with Division 1 coaches too. They're not only watching the sidelines for the kids, they're watching the parents. So parents, if you think that they don't, I had one coach call me after it was 100 D1 coaches on the opposite side of the gym at 10 o'clock at night. The next day the coach calls and he's like, wow, mom, you're one real cool customer. And I was like, you know who I am? He goes, oh, we figure it out. Trust me. He's like, it's not too hard to figure out which kid goes with which parent.
Yeah.
But also for your kid, like who's standing on the sidelines like this? Who's, this isn't fair.
Yeah.
The body language is a huge tell. And those things we have a complete control over. And helping a kid with ADHD could be as something as, again, this week, you're going to be really organized before you go to practice. You're going to remember your shoes every single time. We're going to get there early. We're going to get in some extra reps. That's a win.
Yep. The phrase I always use, I used myself. I remember coaches and my own father saying to me all the time was, you never know who's watching. Right. And I think if you go about that, right, when you're at these, probably, everyday life, but if you go about when you're at these events or you're an athlete playing, that if you actually are able to follow that, it's pretty interesting how you keep your composure a little bit better in certain times, how your body language remains positive through tougher times a little bit easier, right? I mean, I've had multiple experiences in my career where I didn't know people were watching and it impacted decisions that were made about me, right? So if we all can, as parents and coaches help athletes understand that, and then to what we said earlier, model that, right?
Yeah.
That's certainly the way to go for sure.
I also think it has the mental aspect of it too. Your body language is telling your body how you're feeling, right? So if you're slumped over, you're going to think, okay, I'm going to feel this way. I'm going to look this way. It's not going to end up in a positive manner. So you said the best, most powerful pose is the Superwoman, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Superman or whoever you want to.
Superwoman.
Wonder Woman, sorry. But hands on the hips, right? And standing up straight, shoulders back, head up, right? We talk a lot about body language with our athletes because it's not only portrays you in a good light and looks good for other people looking at you, but internally it's telling you yourself, I am confident, right? I feel confident, right? And that's just such a big thing, I think, especially.
Yeah. And I always say too, there's another side of that, right? Think about how that puts you from a leadership perspective, right? You're leading by example when your body language is good, right? Your teammates, your peers,
look at you.
They want to model that themselves, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's a big, because, I always go into this, and I'm a believer that some of the, the best leaders are not necessarily the loudest ones in the room or have to talk so much, right? The best leaders are the ones that listen very well.
By example.
And when they speak, it's at the right times so that people listen to them. So a perfect way to go about that in parallel is also leading by example with obviously having good body language, right? So
Julie Foudy has a podcast and she says, my nickname was Loudy Foudy. And but Mia Hamm hardly ever spoke. But when she spoke, we all listened, right?
Exactly.
There's a great book called The Captain's Class, and he evaluated the best teams in the world. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's excellent. But he breaks down, he wanted to figure out what were the true leadership qualities. So in order for him to even study the team, you had to win 4 back-to-back world titles. So rugby and cricket and volleyball and soccer and everything. And then once he had those teams, then he broke down what were the characteristics of each of those teams and what were the true leaderships. And yes, we think of the Ronaldinhos and the Ronaldos and the Peles and the Jordans, but so many of those leadership, they're the guys that carry the bags. They're the ones that carry the water. There's Christine Sinclair, when the women won the 99 World Cup, she didn't even want to go to the White House. She's like, I'm doing my laundry that night. But they said, if we didn't have Julie Sinclair on the team, we would have never won. Julie who? Like, nobody could even name her, yet everybody agreed. So again, parents, when your kid isn't the goal scorer or isn't the one that's the big and flashy, that doesn't mean they don't have an incredibly important role on the team. I think everybody has a role, and helping them embrace and that's what coaches can do too, right? Help them embrace and reward them for that. Like, I had an athlete who was in a plane crash. He got recruited to play at Michigan, got in a small plane crash. His mother died and his sister died. He learned how to walk again, got back. Bayline said, great, you should come. He was committed to go to Michigan, play basketball, got in a second plane crash.
I heard about this.
Lost his father.
So
had to learn how to walk and talk again. Coach Beeline comes into the hospital room and says, when you are back, you will be on the team. He's on the roster for 3 years on a full ride scholarship. Finally, he gets subbed in and actually scores a basket. But he said, my senior year, I realized I'm taking somebody's spot. I had this dream. I was supposed to be this great talent. He said, so my challenge to myself the senior year was, how fast can I get the bags from the side of the court to the bus? Because if I do that better, then my team can recover faster. If they recover fast, like, never once did he talk about woe is me and this isn't fair. He said, I had 2 bad days.
Yeah. Yep.
Yet my kid's not playing, or I only scored 20 points, or, you're like, wow.
Yeah. There's such
gratitude that I get to play, that I can run up and down the court, right?
Yeah.
When we flip that script, and I think that is the biggest superpower. And when we help our kids embrace that and realize this is all a gift.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest part as parents. For us, we always are talking about the word gratitude in front of our kids, making sure they understand what it truly means, and reminding them. And it's hard when they have things, to remind them what it's like. A lot of kids that don't have the opportunity to play any sport they want, don't have the opportunity to be able to go to this practice and that practice and all of that. And I think, again, as parents, it's just our responsibility to try to get them to understand that as best as we can, so that they do grow up more grateful and appreciative as much.
And
right.
None of us are one dimensional. So even if you are a great baseball player, like, you have other skills and interests. So if you have an ADHD kid, what are the things that they love to do that they're also good at? I mean, they like to cook, or they like to be with the dog, or they like to go to camp, or figure out what are those other things, and help them build the scaffolding. Because what we're doing is we're putting everything on one post, and all of our success, all of our feeling of self-worth revolves around this one thing. And not if, but when that doesn't go well, I suck, woe is me, the world is ending. I'm just as guilty of that. I think my biggest parenting mistake I've ever made was my kids should have had summer jobs. And I don't care if it's mowing. I mean, I grew up with, I scooping ice cream at Baskin Robbins, and mowing the yard and mucking the stalls and doing all those things. And we don't have time for that. Oh, we got to go to practice. Oh, they got to go to bed. But that's actually giving them the agency, so that when this stuff doesn't go well, you're still a very valuable member of this family. We don't care if you play basketball or not. We don't care if you swim or not. It's just something you do.
Yeah.
Exactly. And think about how how much more well-rounded they are as well. It's so interesting that you bring that up, because I have this belief. It may not be a popular opinion, but it's kind of how I've approached this. And again, obviously, as you know, I was an athlete. I did everything from the travel teams to the showcases to traveling around the country and this and that recruiting. I've done it all, right? But as a dad now, I have this belief where I do not want my boys, again, where we are today, right? One is almost 10, one is 8, so they're still young. But I have not yet, nor do I believe in them doing sports summer camps. I use that as the opportunity to, go to coding, do your STEM, do engineering, do
Arts,
aquarium camp, do music, do, whatever else there is because listen, what about the kids that go to, football camp from 9 a.m. till 3:00 p.m. Then they come home for 2 hours. Then they go to another 3 hours of football camp. Like, to me, is that like, okay? I mean, that's a pretty action-packed day. And I get it because, maybe the parents are working and so that, like, I get that. But like, think about all the skills and other interests that may have come into their lives that they weren't able to actually see if they genuinely liked or wanted to pursue. And also, when we kind of allow or help our kids do those types of things, it most likely they're surrounded by like-minded peers.
Yeah.
So then they develop
their confidence,
friendships, and confidence grows, and then passions and hobbies develop. Like, I always love, and you can probably think of examples. I don't know if I can think off the top of my head, but like when we see these clips on ESPN or these documentaries or whatever on these like amazing athletes, and then they're like amazing piano players as well. Or they're like, like Bernie Williams for the New York Yankees back in the day, right? He was an amazing guitarist, or I think it was guitar, saxophone, whatever it was, like, or some other hobby that they're into, right?
They have another passion.
It's so cool when you see that, right? And it's like,
that's important.
There's so much more of like their brain and their functioning and these experiences that they were able to get out of life, because yes, they were obviously extremely talented athletes because they're doing this at the highest level you could do it. But throughout their journey of getting there, right, they were exposed and doing other things. And I think that there's so much good there. And I just wish that, like, whatever. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of parents that would disagree with me, but like, I just wish that we made more of a effort to do things like
to give our kids the opportunities to find something else that lights them up, so that they want to wake up in the morning. They're excited to do something, not just sports. Because if they get hurt, then what are they going to fall back on? Nothing. Then they turn into depression, right? And we don't want that, right? So
nobody is one-dimensional. Nobody.
Yeah.
We all, and if you are, I would argue to say you're probably not that fulfilled in life, because we all need to relax. We all need to have downtime. We all need to. So when my boys, we moved to Los Angeles, my older one was going into high school. And then when the second one was coming up into high school, it was a private high school. He didn't know anybody. So I signed him up for the basketball camp, which was 2 hours. But then I signed him up for a music mixing. I'm not doing that. I hate that. This is where, okay, then you ask, like, how do you know when to push? Okay, you're going to do it for the summer. And, grumble, this isn't any fun. And then the next thing you know, he's kind of making beats. And then the next thing you know, he's got a guitar. This summer, fast forward 8 years, he wrote a song that's got 125,000 downloads on Spotify. And his best friend, who just graduated from Michigan in film school, made they made a music video.
That's awesome.
I have no idea if anybody will ever watch the video.
He's proud of it.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It does not matter. It gave him joy. They had a blast. He was down in Venice Beach in a priest costume singing, this song, right? Like,
now I got to watch the video.
I've seen this.
Yeah, that's how you gotta get the cortisol. So the parents are asked, well, how do I get the cortisol out of the brain?
Yeah,
that's it. If we're only talking about one thing,
pressure.
And I gotta be perfect, and I gotta be only. I mean, yes, he's still very focused on basketball, but if you leave him alone for 6 hours, he'll be up in his room writing music. Now he sings. And it started because of that one stupid class mom made me take.
Good job, mom. Yeah.
Very cool.
So
okay.
Finding other things. Maybe it's music, maybe it's art, maybe it's cooking. I don't care. But
push them into something. Yeah, push it. Let them test it out for a little bit and say like, hey, we're just test it out. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it again, but give it a try. Right?
It's a research project. Or my other one, we took surf camp. We were living in San Diego at one point, and at 10, I have a picture of him up on a board. He caught one wave, and same thing. I just want to go play basketball. Like he was that like,
okay.
And so, but I had one picture of him on a wave. Fast forward 10 years, it's COVID. And I overhear him on a phone. Yeah, dude, I used to surf when I was little. So, I picked it up again. One time.
Technically it's not wrong.
Whereas parents, we go, oh, but they're not willing to try anything. Like, you don't know. And again, I laughed. I was like, of course. I mean, whatever. I don't care, but he surfs now. But in his mind, he'd always been a surfer, and you're like, sure.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Okay, so one last question to kind of close it out here. So if every sports parent that's listening today was able to change one thing about this upcoming season that would have the biggest impact on their child's confidence, what do you think that should be?
Listening.
So don't stop talking so much. Listen more.
Yep.
Ask better questions. Here's the problem. Oh, I've done this. I have the answers. I know why that coach was wrong, even if I don't. Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Like back to the car ride home. But, let them vent if they want to vent. Let them talk about it if they're excited about it. But I like to say, sleep on it. And then next day, ask them if they want to share. And each kid's different. I have one that give it to me. I know exactly. Tell me what, they want to be coached. And the other one's just tell me you love me. So each child is different. But parents, if we can be more present, and by that, we can ask questions and say, wow, I am so proud of how you showed up early. I saw you engage with your teammates. You were, but I didn't play. I don't care. I am not here for that. I will come to every game because I see the effort you're giving, which you're also giving in science class, which you're also giving in Boy Scouts, that's what we value as a family.
Praise the effort. Yeah.
Praise the effort, not the outcome.
Well, this was so awesome talking to you. We hopefully our listeners were able to pull lots of actionable tips and things that they can take away and put into this upcoming sports season. I'm sure I did, especially after reading your book. I think I finished that in 3 days. So if you guys want to grab that book, where can they find it, and where can they get more support from you or see more of what you're doing?
Thank you. This is wonderful. I love these conversations. Raising Empowered Athletes, everywhere books are sold, but, Amazon, you can get it. I also have the Audible version, and it is me telling
I love that
story. So people sometimes, you're in your car driving to practice. So, and then sometimes you can just put it on while the kid happens to be in the car. I've had parents say that too.
I've done that. That's so smart. I've done that.
They regurgitate it back to you later, and you're like, oh, really great. And my website is Kirsten Jones Inc. I'm a speaker, so I work with clubs, I work with organizations, I speak to corporations, all about leadership and mindset, and then I work one-on-one with parents and athletes. And honestly, in the last 2 years, I think I have as many parents who come to me and say, I'm the problem, it's me. Could you work with me? And I love that. And they were the ones that played in the NFL. I played, and they're so dysregulated because they're so competitive. And that's me. I want to win at checkers. I want to win at everything. So you're not trying to overtake your kid, but you also are realizing you need to step back and you need to have that time to breathe. And so I work with parents too on just, okay, how do we want to approach this? Because life is way too short for you to be ripping the bat so hard that you can't enjoy the experience either. And we're spending way too much money on it to not make it enjoyable for all.
Yeah, agree. I'll put those links in our description. It was, again, great chatting with you, Kirsten.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you both.